Welcome to our Savvy series. I'm Catherine Magana here with Rachel Ivanovich. And if you'd like to set up a complimentary strategy session with us, you can reach us at 760-692-5700. Once again, that's 760-692-5700. So today we're going to continue the conversation about obstacles in retirement. And one of them that we kind of talked a little bit about through other podcasts was ignoring spousal benefits. So not considering spousal Social Security benefits or pensions, by overlooking some of these from a planning perspective, you could be missing out. So we just kind of want to make sure that we kind of expressed some things to consider when you're looking at the spousal benefits. So some mistakes that come up with Social Security spousal benefits are filing too early. So if you are still working and you file before full retirement age, then potentially your benefit could be reduced. It could be up to almost 30% reduction. But if you are retired and you want to take it early, you have to look at kind of the break even and also your health. And so it's not a one size fits all. Should I, get the money early or late? It's really a question of, are you still working? What's the plan? And because it does continue, full retirement age is really the age we really look at is, okay, wait, if you can wait till full retirement age, and then also if you can let it grow to age 70, if you're still working, you get an increase.
And they keep changing that age. So for those of you born in 1960s or later, the full retirement age is 67 years old. But I think it's really important to also understand that in order to be eligible for spousal benefits, your spouse must have already filed and be receiving their own retirement benefits. You cannot claim your spousal benefit if your spouse hasn't actually already started receiving benefits.
And then if you are divorced, so if you were married for over 10 years, then you also get access to your ex-spouse's benefits. So once again, then you look at who has a higher benefit. Is it your ex-spouse or your benefit? And so looking at, really taking a closer look to see, what are the benefits that come to you, and then also. And
in addition to that, if you were married twice before, you get to pick, depending on which benefit is higher. So it's important to really look at. Okay, I had two marriages. Was the first marriage maybe that spouse was a higher earner? So you want to make sure that you're actually, if you were married for 10 years, that you're looking at that benefit.
Interesting. And then if you end up taking benefits before full retirement age, there is the earnings test, and this fluctuates a little bit year over year, but in 2024, the earnings limit is $22,320. So what that means is if you're working and you earn more than that, then you start getting reduced benefits, and it's basically you get $1 withheld for every $2 of benefits that you get above the limit. So definitely some things to think about if you're still working.
I think there's a weird rule if you reach full retirement age in the current year. So if you reach full retirement age in 2024, you can earn up to $59,520, and they won't reduce your benefit.
Yes.
But planning ahead, as you said, is key.
And so then there's also if there's a death of a spouse, then there's also their survivor benefits and things to consider depending on your age and what you're looking at. So there's kind of a lot of moving parts when it comes to Social Security and really calculating what's the best option.
I think one of the things that gets overlooked is failing to coordinate your benefits with your other income or your other pensions, because there is, of course, that tax component that people need to consider, because Social Security is taxable on the federal side. Most states don't tax Social Security. California is one of them. But the Fed does tax your Social Security, so you want to look and see what other income you have to coordinate to see if you can save money on your taxes as well.
Kind of talking about taxes is then if you're taking Social Security and if you have income coming in and you're after full retirement age, and now you're on Medicare. So then there's Medicare planning, and then once again, there's different limits, and if you earn income and it changes, so there's kind of a lot of moving parts.
Exactly, and there might be that, I guess they call it the IRMA, where you pay additional premiums on your Medicare if your income is high in 1 year. So for instance, you sell a house and all of a sudden you have a spike in your income. You want to make sure you're planning for that too.
Yeah. And then you throw in a little later when you're in retirement, when you have to look at your required minimum distributions. So then now you have Social Security, required minimum distributions, and all that income if you have rental income, and then how are those incomes affecting those limits too.
And making sure you're planning for taxes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about pensions. So obviously, if your spouse has a pension and you're going through a divorce, it is important to look at in the divorce settlements, who's getting what assets and how are you divvying up the investments and the income. And so usually there's a marital agreement that comes into play where you're really looking at, okay, are there 401k plans, is there pensions, and what kind of income do you expect? So it's one of those things, or if you're negotiating in your divorce, what are you going to get?
I think it's really important that people, again, look at the taxes when they're looking at how, what assets will I get in a divorce? Because they're not all created equal. Pensions typically earned by one spouse are considered joint assets, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be split 50-50. So you definitely need to be looking at all the factors, tax consequences included, before you make a decision as to, negotiating how much of that pension, what should I be entitled to.
So some planning tips for retirement are if you went through a divorce or if you're suddenly single now, kind of looking forward, what kind of income are you getting? How are your assets working for you? And are you going back to work or do you have enough money to live on? And so there is some planning that that is involved when a situation like this happens, or if and sometimes sometimes these things happen that you're not planning for, but once again, you have to make sure you're making the right financial decisions because there are tax implications for everything too.
I have several clients that have unfortunately lost spouses in the last couple of years, and it's really interesting to see, how the power of planning. One spouse, she and her husband, who she lost, they planned everything out in advance, and they actually knew, when he passed away, she would lose much of the income, but they had actually sat down with a financial advisor, planned that all out, and so she's in a great position. Whereas I have another client who didn't even factor that in, that when her spouse passed away, that she would lose, $20,000 a year. Wow. And so it's really key to be looking at, will I lose this pension when my spouse passes?
Yeah. We have a client we've been working with, and there's an age difference. There's about a 10-year age difference between the spouses, and the husband has a really good pension plan. And we looked at the benefits if something were to happen, what would she be left with and what's the impact, and ran some different scenarios. And what they were looking at was doing some additional charitable giving, but after kind of revisiting, they can still do that, but maybe a little later after she's kind of a little bit further along into her retirement. And so once again, it's good to look at the numbers and do some projections. And yes, you can still do giving, but just maybe have it planned out a little bit. And once again, there's those what ifs, and you want to make sure there's enough, because if that pension goes away, or if it's a really
you
reduced
amount,
you want to make sure there's enough income. Yeah. And I think that would be the worst case, is if you didn't plan for that and something happened, and then all of a sudden you're stuck, you don't have enough, and that would be devastating to the families. So that pretty much is a wrap for today. So once again, if you like a complimentary strategy call with us, you can reach us at 760-692-5700. And thanks for getting savvy with us today about your finances. And remember, savvy up. Please stay tuned for important regulatory disclosures.
Savvy Women Wealth Management is an SEC registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry and how we may be able to assist. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. As always, please remember investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Tax considerations presented may not be appropriate for every individual circumstance. A tax professional should be consulted before making any decisions about your tax liability.